Hi, illustration students, and some of you are actually in other specialties, but this is a little bit of a deeper illustrative concept, although still simple, than the iPhone you painted. I have the iPhone that you painted, or something similar to the iPhone that you painted, this is mine, in front of me. And I want to just again or show you that all the way through the semester we have tried to not forget that paths over here to the left and channels and layers have everything to do with each other. And your ability to add, subtract, intersect, or exclude paths makes your life so much easier. And the ability to add layer masks to remove paint even makes that painting process so much easier to execute. So what we're going to do here, I just want to turn off the background. I want to go up here and turn off the interior stuff like the shine. I want to turn off the image right there. I want to go up and turn off the text and the buttons. And I want to make sure that you understand that the bigger shapes go on the bottom of the layer palette and the smaller shapes go on the top. So as we move from this center area here to the black area, you can see the shapes are simply getting bigger. And I used the same concept of what I just said, from smaller down to bigger on the bottom, and my paths actually accounted for all that. So you can see as I'm clicking on those paths, the farther I go down on my path, the smaller the shape usually gets. Okay, so what you have to do is take what you've learned here in this concept of the iPhone. Now let me quit this and not save it. And then later on, this is not what you're doing now, this is not what you're doing this semester, I use that same concept on this product. Okay, just because it has soft edges doesn't mean it's a lot more difficult. It just means you use a lot more layer masks. But the same process of paths, look at the channels, and layers make everything work. Now I'm going to move the channels down, or I'll just double click that just so I can kind of zoom it in here. And then I'm going to double click the paths because this isn't about you painting this kind of complexity. On my YouTube channel, I have 22 movies in a row that show you how to do and execute every single shape. So that's not what this movie's about. Actually, you're going to be surprised what this movie's about. But I'm going to remove the above hair, I'm going to remove the face texture, I'm going to go down to here and remove the shirt area, the neck area, the background. Then I'm going to go back up to here and I'm going to remove the clothing, the shoulder area. I'm going to remove, if I can find it, the rope over on this side, and I want to remove the entire hand, if I can find the hand. Let me see where my hand is. This is arms and fingers, and then this is, let me hit the V key and right hand click where that is. It's under number 2 and it's under highlights. So, oh, that's not it. It's the under hair. Yeah, that was the under hair. Now I'm going to remove all of the hair area. And the only reason I'm showing you this is because when we break down something as simple as any particular shape in here, it just becomes a series of bigger shapes to smaller shapes. So if I take away the eye area and the eyelashes and eyebrows, if I remove the nose area, and if I take off the highlights, you can see that everything just is a base value. The ear is gone, the mouth area is gone. So now inside the face area, if I wanted to, I could show you here in the face area that as I move my way down in the face area, I get down to the base value. So what is my job? Well, my job first is to figure out what is the base value. So as I come down here, look at that base value now. There it is. So as I go up to the clicky copy and I determine that that initial value, let's do the same thing. I'm going to quit this one now and not save it. This is what you're going to paint for me. This is the actual clicky copy. Now I'm going to do it in only 3 movies, maybe 2. But I'm going to turn off this and show you what I did. It's not as sophisticated as the one I just showed you. But I want to zoom in on something because I want you to see how any particular shape is solved. The end of this child's nose is just a sphere with lights and darks, right? So it can be broken down into shapes, right? So as I go into this palette here, you can see I have nose shapes that I've actually laid out right there. Now, how do you draw shapes that aren't really and don't really have an edge? Well, you look at where, like on this side, you look at where the color is at 100%. You move your mental view, your visibility over to where the color isn't. And the path belongs in the middle. Do you understand what I just said? The path belongs in the middle of that. Now, forget what I just said. So now let me hit Command tilde and go to the one that I want you to see. This is just like the child's nose. So it doesn't matter. I'll show you what, let me put this all the way on the top. This is what I just downloaded, just a bunch of spheres. Okay, I chose to zero in on this purple one. Now, I want you to look at this. I even labeled what I think is the fill color. Okay, so there is the fill, the base fill. It's not really the 50% value, it's just that's what the base fill is. In this case, it might even be a 50% or 60 or 70% purpley dark, but I don't care. I have an eyedropper, I can sample it. Now I think that there's only 2 darks and 2 lights and a shadow that has 2 shadow shapes. So I want you to see here how I work my way. Look over here to the left. I work my way to fill, which is what that is. Then I work my way to dark number 1. Now you can see in dark number 1 how I'm pointing to that value that's right there. Well, I'm going to put it between the 2 paths here. Look at how I drew that over to the left. Okay, now let's go to dark number 2. In dark number 2, that's where I think dark number 2 is. It's just the darkest magenta. It's got a little black in it. Okay, now let's turn off dark 2 and let's go to light number 1. Well, that's the lighter magenta. And I don't care. I can subtract this. I can use a layer mask on every single one of these layers to take away paint. I can even clip all of these layers right here, all of these layers, light 2, light 1, dark 2, dark 1, to the fill. I can clip them all so I don't have to worry about paint that goes over the edge. Okay, which I'm going to do with you, for you. So what I want you to see now is the light 2 number 1. The light 2, the smallest shape. So look at how it goes from bigger to smaller, 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 smaller. Now how did I draw those? Well, if I zoom in, you can see, look at what I'm going to do here. That's the color that I'm pointing at. So I take my eyedropper and I grab that color. But if that's the color, look where the color is at 100% of that color. And then go out here somewhere where the color isn't. Well, it's somewhere in this area right there. See? All, nothing. All, nothing. Where does the path go? Somewhere in the middle. That's the same thing with the outer part. So I didn't draw it. I picked the middle of where that dark is. Look, where that dark is and where that dark isn't. See? Is, isn't. Where's the path go? In the middle. Now I had to marquee these paths. If you look over here on the left, I had to take my P key, hold my Command or Control key, and I had to marquee these, and then make sure they were on what? You got it. Exclude. Not combine, exclude. Look what happens if I put them on combine. Do you see that path? It changed. Right there. You see the icon? Well, that's not going to do me any good. That means if I tried to make a selection of it, it would ignore the inner one. Well, that's no good. So let me deselect it. Let me click back on it. Let me marquee it with the direct selection tool. They call it direct select now. And let me go change the property to exclude. Now that is going to work. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's paint this and watch how easy it is to paint. And let's pretend that it's the child's nose. So I want to do something right away. I want to make sure that I show you, if I turn this off, that you can remove paint with layer masks so quickly. Now, let me just show you what I'm talking about. I'll do it with the dark purple. So let me turn on this. And I also have that clicky copy up here, you see, right up here, because I want to be able to flip this on and off. Here's the clicky copy. I want to be able to flip it on and off and see how I'm doing. But for now, I leave it off. Okay, so I go to the fill area. Okay, I'm sorry. I want to do this one just really quick to show you, and then I'm going to erase it. So I'm going to put it on dark number 2. I'm going to command click this. I'm going to hit the B key for brush, hold Option or Alt, and grab this color. Now, watch how simple this is. If I turn this off and I hit Option Delete, I'm done. Well, what do you mean, Brian, you're done? Well, I have to look over here and I have to see how much it's going to blur. Well, I think it blurs maybe a bunch. Okay, so what is a bunch? Well, why don't I take that clicky copy, duplicate it, okay, duplicate it, hit Command T, shrink it, so I can kind of have that image in front of me as I want to blur it. So let me put it off to the side. Okay, that works. That's very cool. Now I can zoom in and I can kind of see that without seeing this. Okay, fine. Click to your dark layer. Make sure no selection is active. Go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur, and then blur it until it looks like the illustration above or the reference above. It's about, whoops, that's too much. That's not enough. That's about right, maybe 20, right there. Now, if I turn on the clicky copy, you can see that I have it in about the right area. Am I correct? You bet. Now, what do I need to add to that? You're right, a layer mask. The layer mask has to be white, so that means that no selection was active. Let's turn off the clicky copy and let's only look up here. So take your big paintbrush, put it on a flow of about 8 to 10. I'll put it on 8. Right-hand click and make sure it's all the way what? You got it, soft. Now, paint out. Make sure that your foreground color is black. And paint away what you don't want. So now we paint it away until it's gone from here. Now this is how every single shape is going to be done, and guess what? Now when I turn on the bottom layer, it should be pretty close. See? I even needed to take more away. So look, I'll take more away here, and I'll take more away here, and voila, done, finished, over. Now I'm going to execute that again. So I'm going to delete this layer mask. I'm going to hit Command A to select all, or Control A, and I'm going to hit the delete key and delete off that paint. Now let's do the whole thing by looking right up here. Okay, great. So now I am going to click to the fill. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to make a selection of this. B key, Option key, grab where I said about right there and hit Option Delete. Well, there's your fill. Okay, let's go to dark number 1. What is dark number 1? Dark number 1 is, and look at how I have to use the clicky copy, because now this, see the fill here, it covers up the original. So I don't even need to turn on the original anymore. Thank God I have the clicky copy, right? So now, let's use this dark. See this dark? It's between the fill color and the dark. So let's go click. I always go slightly darker than I need or slightly lighter than I need. When I grab this light value for the highlight, I'm going to make it even lighter. When I grab this color for the dark, I'm going to make it even darker. So I'm going to click right there and I'm going to make it just a pinch darker. Okay, cool. Now make sure you're on the right layer. Let's go make the selection. Now let's hit Option Delete. Now I should have turned off the clicky copy, so let me Command Z back. That was silly of me. So Option Delete. There it is. There's your thing. Now what do you have to do? You tell me what I have to do. That's right. With no selection active, I have to Gaussian blur that. So let's go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. Let's Gaussian blur how many pixels? Well, that's not enough. Let's go up to where it says enough. I think that is really close right there. Boom, done, Finished. See all the icky that's all around the edges? Well, why don't you just Alt or Option click that? It's gone. Now, I want to take some away. So what do I need to add to dark number 1? A layer mask. The layer mask is white, so I did it correctly. Take my big paintbrush. And now let's paint away. What color am I using on the layer mask? You got it. Black. If I make a mistake, I hit the X key and I paint white. Look, I'm making a mistake. Whoops. I hit the X key. I put it back. Beautiful. I fixed all my boo-boo. Now let's click to dark to what happened to my dark? I think I hit the delete key. I think I made a mistake. No, I didn't. I have to move this over. Oh, that's so funny. Now I can't, because I couldn't read it, I thought I deleted it, but I didn't. I'm not that silly. See dark number 1. So let's go to dark number 2. Let's see the clicky copy. Okay, now pretend this is the bottom of his nose. Let's go here and see that the bottom of his nose has a little bit of a darkness going on right there. Well, how do you paint that? Well, the answer is the same way we're going to paint this. So now we click to dark number 2. I won't put a layer mask on it yet. Okay. We make a selection of it. We go get the clicky copy. So I can either use this little teensy weensy one right up here, or I can use this, which I'll use this. Hold Alt or Option, grab the dark. What did I say? Make it slightly what in this case? Darker. Click OK. Now, before you do anything, I'm going to turn off the clicky copy. Make sure what? Yes, Brian. Make sure you're selected on the right layer. Option Delete. Great. Now what do? Well, with no selection active, you go to blur. Because if you had a selection active, it wouldn't blur beyond the selection. Right? Now 44 was way too much, and 9.5 ain't enough. Isn't enough, I'm sorry. And now let's go more, and that is gorgeous, just gorgeous. Now, what do I need to add to that? A layer mask. Now, make your brush big. Don't paint on a layer mask with a teensy weensy brush. Now, paint it away. Whoops, I was painting white on a white layer mask. Does nothing, right? So what key do I have to hit? To hit the X key. Now let's take this and make it off, gone. Now there's always going to be slight fix-it layers that we're going to have to add something to, but let's see how much we have to add it. Let's see how much I have to fix. Is the client going to be happy with this? Remember, I started with solid layers and I Gaussian blurred them. Now what do? I click to the light number 1. I make a selection of light number 1. I go grab light number 1. So B key, look at this, Option or Alt, and grab that lighter value right there. Now all I'm going to do is Option Delete. Deselect. What do? With nothing, with no selection active, filter, blur, and Gaussian blur that baby until it looks pretty. That's not enough. It needs to go a little bit more and a little bit more. And that is really pretty. Now look at the messies we've created on top. So watch this. I Option or Alt click to clip, right? Then I clip that one and it's gone. It's totally gone. Now I'm going to need to use a little bit of that value. I probably should have Gaussian blurred that just a little bit more. Okay, but that could be one of my fix-it layers. Just a little bit of that paint, just a little bit right there would help. Now, I could probably Gaussian blur that just a little bit more. So let's go to Gaussian blur just a little bit more. And a little bit more would be, you know, I want you to know that I'm not going to the number it was and then adding from there. So if I go to 7.4 or 8.5 or 10, it's doing a little bit more than it was. That actually looks better right there. Let me see the preview, and I can barely tell. So let me go more. And no, I like how I actually had it. Let me click. Okay, that's good enough. Now let's go to the light number 2 layer. So let's click that little teensy weensy thing. Let's go up here and grab that light value. Now in this case, what did I say? Yes, make it just slightly brighter. Now let's click OK. Let's Option Delete. Let's deselect. Let's Gaussian blur that until it looks semi-good. or semi-close to what it's supposed to. And now 8 isn't enough. That's not enough. That's too much. And that's still too much. Whoops, it's going to be like 20. Somewhere in the 20 range. That's pretty. That's pretty. Now, look at how I have a layer number 1 up above here. I'm going to call it fix. Now, I am going to clip, Alt or Option, clip that one, and clip this one so I don't have to worry about getting paint outside of it, correct? Now, listen to what I'm saying. I don't want to damage this highlight, so this fix-it layer is going to go underneath it because I want to use the color of this layer. See what I'm talking about? Okay, so let me go to the B key. Let me go to the Alt or Option key. Let's grab that lighter value. And now you see if I go to the clicky copy, see how it's a little bit lighter where I'm showing you right there? So what I'm going to do is just help that. I'm just going to help it with my paintbrush. And I am very pretty. Now that was a very quick way to show you how to do something and not make it so dramatically hard. Thank goodness for layer masks, right? I didn't need a layer mask on light 1, on the fix, or on the highlight. If I did, I'd add it. Now let's go to the shadow. So in the shadow number 1, you can see here, I'm going to grab that middle gray. Here's my first one. Now, let's go B key, Option key, grab the shadow color here, which is about right about there. Okay, that's cool. Yep, that's cool. Now, let's go Option delete. Now, what do? Yep. And let's now add a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to stretch that out. It needs to stretch out more left and right. Would you agree? Okay, well, Photoshop made that possible. If you hit Command T on that, look at how I can hold the Shift key. I can actually hold Option and Shift and stretch it. Look at Option, this is Alt and Shift. Look at how it's stretching the same way on both sides. Look, I've just stretched it out. I'm going to stretch it out even farther. Look at how pretty. Okay? Hit the return key. Let's go to shadow number 2. So now I need to actually, I made a mistake here. I actually put the bigger one on top of the littler one. I'll fix my mistake very quickly. I'm actually going to say that this is shadow 1, and now the shadow 2 is going to be the smaller one. So I did make a mistake. I didn't hear. Look, I actually said shadow 2 is the shadow number 2 is the smaller, so I'm going to Command or Control click on it. Let's zoom in to get a really good color. So let's go right here and B key, Alt or Option, grab the dark, and I'm gonna, it's a kind of a not a, it's a dead dark, but I'm still gonna go with it because that's what the client wanted. So now let's make sure you're on the correct layer. Option delete, deselect, thank you. Keep your eye on this little ball sphere thingy up here, and let's go to same thing. It's like always the same thing, always. Now I'm going to make it less, but I'm going to stretch it out a little bit farther. So again, how do we stretch that out? We hit Command or Control T. Instead of just grabbing this on one corner and making it go, you'd have to try to match it on the other corner. They being Photoshop, allowed for Option, which means it'll distort from the center. So, and in the new Photoshop, you have to hold the Shift key if you want to just do 2 sides. So you got to practice that. So now look at that. Look at how I'm stretching it out. And now there it is. And that's a really nice rendition. Now, if I wanted to, I could remove just a teensy-weensy bit of opacity. And I could also, look what I'm doing, adding a layer mask, because I think that I should kind of knock back a little bit of the dark right here. See how I'm knocking it back right here, and then click, 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 and look at how I've added, see those 2 little things on the layer mask right there? I actually kind of just softened it. Now there is a pretty good rendition of that ball. I think another fix-it layer should be a little bit more of the dark right there. So, let's find out where that would be. It would be above dark number 2. So let's put a fix-it layer there. Fix dark 2. Now all we have to do, since it's already clipped, is just go grab this color. Let's hit the B key. Let's hold Alt or Option, grab this color. What do you do? Yep, well actually I'm going to grab that color up there and I'm going to make it slightly darker, just slightly darker. Now I'm only painting at 8 on the flow. Look at the size of my brush. Now if I put too much paint in there, I want you to see what I'm talking about. See where I need a little bit more dark right there? Okay, well do it. Just put it in. Just tap it. Just boom, 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 and you got it. I mean, look at how pretty that is. And I didn't even use a Wacom tablet. Now that is just exactly how you would do every shape from the cheeks to the nose on that child's face. Let me hit Command S to save. I'm gonna Command tilde to the other file, and now you can see how I actually did this. Now I'm going to Command click that path, and then what I want you to do, and I'm not asking you to paint a sphere, I'm asking you to now watch how I build to the darks. So if I take off his, what you just saw was I showed everyone how to break down. I should show you this, but I'll show you in the actual movie. Okay, I'll show you in the actual movie. But I broke his face down into 4 or 5 colors. There, let me see where I put the 4. Okay, here's the color swatches. You see where I actually have the face broken down into the light values and then 1, 2, 3, 4? Do you see that? So I actually looked at his shapes right there. Now I'm going to turn on the clicky copy and turn it off. I'm going to click it back and forth. Do you see how I kind of broke his face down into different darks? There's a base value, you see it, it's that light brown. And of course I'm going to need some fix-it layers. But that's it, that's all it is. That's really all it is. So what I should have done before I showed you what I just did is turn off the hair, the eyes. I'm sorry, let me turn this off. I should have taken the hair away, the eyes away, the mouth away, just to leave the face. That's what I should have done for you. Okay, I should have done that. Okay, darken lower face, solid fills, shirt. So I should have taken the shirt away. What else did I not take away? Why isn't the shirt gone? Oh, because the shirt was in the solid fills. Okay, so that's what I should have broken the face down into. But now let me turn the solid fills on. I'm going to go into the solid fill layer if you don't mind, please. And I'm going to, don't get panicky on this, please. I'm also going to take the shirt off of that. Okay, so I'm now going to turn off the one that I Gaussian blurred. So now you can see, if I turn this off and on, how I broke it down into a series of darks. And then through Gaussian blurring and layer masking, I was able to soften those hard shapes and make them, into that. And that's basically not a hard thing to do when you do it one shape at a time. And then, as I said, this face will really only take 2 movies. So if you want to know how to do something pretty cool, and you have painted the iPhone, I want to go back to this. I do not want you to go past this until you've done this. And you have to show me that you've done this. And if you've done the one for other classes that wasn't a 3/4 view, see how you can see 3 sides on this? And if you used custom gradients on it, that's not the way to truly paint. I mean, it's a way, and it's successful sometimes, but what I want you to do now is watch the first face movie, having seen me actually paint this, so that you know how simple it can be, breaking it down into simple values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, done. Back the other way. Bigger, smaller, 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 smaller. Isn't that kind of cool? I mean, isn't that simple? Kinda? Knowing we used that for the little one, that for the bigger one, that for the biggest one. there, which was, I'm sorry, then it went to that one, then it went to this one, so that one should actually be up here, and then it went to this one. But the reason why that one was here is because even though it's darker, it's actually smaller. So this goes from the biggest shape to the next smallest, to the next smallest, to the next smallest, to the next smallest, just like the layers go from the smallest to the next biggest, next biggest, next biggest, next biggest, and fill. So I'll see you on the next movie. Thanks.